This is going to save lives. I'll explain how that works, okay, in just a minute. So this one is about the invasion of Western Europe. You should have your yellow packet. Okay, mine's blue, but it's the same thing. It should, the back page, it says the invasion of Western Europe. Okay, so this is better known as D-Day. Okay, the day that changed America here. Okay, this is one of those dates you'll have to know. You might as well write it down on here somewhere. Okay, it's June the 6th of 1944. Okay, June 6th, 1944. All right, so this is a picture of what it used to be called a pillbox that was made of concrete encasement, and you're going to see a video where one of these is the target, and it's pretty amazing, right? It worked really well. Okay, so they built these over the coastline so that when the Nazis built those pillboxes because they knew that the Allies were going to try to come across the English Channel. That's the body of water you're looking at. So on your map assignment, you've got France, you got the English Channel, and then you got England on the other side. Okay, so the English Channel is in between. It's like 50 miles. Okay, so they knew, the Nazis knew that the Allies were preparing to come across the English Channel into France because we got chased out at the Battle of Dunkirk, if you remember that. So that was in 1940. Dunkirk was in 1940. This is going to happen in 1944. So the Nazis had 4 years to prepare. Okay, a part of that preparation was to take tree posts or telephone poles and put them like 8 to 10 feet in the ground and fill them with cement, and then leave another 10 or 15 feet out on the plains above Europe. Okay, or the plains above Normandy, which is where we're going to invade. What you see here was designed by the Desert Fox. After he lost North Africa, he got put in charge of this, which is called the Atlantic Wall, to help prevent the Allies from invading France. And so these were called Rommel's asparagus like the vegetable that's grown, right? So Rommel's asparagus was supposed to keep our planes from landing, and they did. Okay, they were very useful. They killed a bunch of American troops and British troops because the planes would land on this during the invasion thinking that they were safe. Well, their wings would clip and then they would crash, and then the planes weren't made very well, and they were just supposed to be transport planes. So they land, drop, maybe 20 guys off, and then another plane lands behind them, drops off 20 more guys, right? We just have, that's part of our invasion, right? We're going to come in on the land, we're going to come in by the air, we're going to have paratroopers, we're going to have guys landing like this, but then our planes start crashing. Well, finally, one of the planes makes it back. Okay, so we alter the plan a little bit, but there were at least hundreds of our guys that died this way because of Rommel's asparagus. Bottom line, the Atlantic Wall was good. They were ready for us to show up. This is another part of it. This is out in the ocean itself. You can see the barbed wire in the middle. It was electrified. Okay, so before we were able to invade, we knew this was there from spies. We knew that this thing was electrified. So if this has electricity in it and our guys jump out of the boats into the water by this and it's electrified, they're going to get electrocuted. They're going to die. Okay, so the Nazis are nasty, man, and they're going to do this to help prevent us from going ashore. So we have to literally have somebody go over in the middle of the night, and they're actually Canadians. They used like a rubber raft. The boat stayed out, a couple miles, and they got in a rubber raft. They paddled themselves up, and then they performed the duties to cut these things so that they weren't electrified anymore, so that when we did invade the following morning, we were safe. Here's a picture of what they look like. This isn't real. This is actually from the movie Saving Private Ryan, which you're going to see a clip of this in class. Okay, you can see the hills up there. Okay, that's in Normandy, France. Like, that's real. That's where this took place. And this is what our guys had to do. So those pillboxes, those concrete bunkers, were on top of that hill up there, and they were firing down on us. Okay, so that's another side view of it. You can see how high those are up there. Okay, and heck, if somebody's down on the beach and you've got that kind of view, you can just shoot down at them with your machine guns. That you're at a crazy advantage, and the guys coming ashore, our guys, were at a great disadvantage. So here you can see Great Britain at the top. That's England. Okay, so you can see the 5 different places that we take off from. So logistically, okay, you're literally in charge of, we're in charge of over probably about 250,000 guys that are going to get on ships, go across the English Channel, and they're going to land here. Okay, so you can see there the peninsula. Well, let's go through the beaches. So you got Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword. Those are the 5 places that will land. And notice the two blue ones, okay, Omaha and Utah, those are Americans. And there's also Canadians and British that are part of this invasion. This is an Allied invasion. It's not just Americans. Okay, so you look at where we bypass Cherbourg there. I'm probably butchering that name in French, but then we cut that off, right? So the reason we did that is because if we can get in there and get the stronghold in that darker little brown area, then we can go straight across that peninsula and cut off the Nazis that are out on that peninsula. And that's exactly what we do. Okay, that works, right? Okay, so this is breaking through that Atlantic Wall. Okay, Hitler ordered a laying of millions of mines and miles of barbed wire, poured tons of concrete, okay, to form a defensive barrier to keep us out. And you can see what the beach looked like. That's a picture of what it looked like on that day. Okay, all right, so this is a better view of all the beaches, okay, and you can see where we're going to go in there, Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword. Okay, this is going to be a brutal day of fighting, the most brutal day of World War II. All right, so this clip I'm not going to play for you right now, but I will play for you in class. Prepare yourself because it's brutal. Okay, it's from the movie Saving Private Ryan. It's the first 20 minutes of the movie, and I'm telling you, it will hold your attention. All right, so this is what it boils down to. Our heroes, okay, fought like that on the left, okay, so that we could enjoy going to the beach, right, in peace on the right. Okay, and after you see that video, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's amazing. Okay, so this is like the Japanese, right? At Pearl Harbor, we heard from the pilots, and we're going to hear from what the Germans saw and what they did and what their reaction was. Okay, but again, we'll do that in class. Okay, all right, so the air war, the lead up to this, right? The Royal Air Force, which is the British Air Force, versus the Luftwaffe. Okay, so again, that goes back to your packet here. Okay, the Royal Air Force is the British or Allied forces, and by this point there are thousands and thousands and thousands of American planes there too. Okay, in fact, you guys know, well, some of you may know Charlie Woodford, who was a dedicated Beverly East fan. Okay, he passed away a couple years ago. He was in World War II. This is what he did. He was a tail gunner on one of the American planes. Okay, and he would go up and fight against the Nazis. He would come in and talk to my class every year and tell stories about how he'd wave to the Nazi bombardiers, right, and they would wave back at him. And then as they would fly by, they missed each other, and they had respect for each other and would wave like, "Hey, good job," but they're still trying to kill each other, knock each other out of the sky. So he was a tail gunner, would shoot at those Nazi planes. His stories were unbelievable, right? So what the Luftwaffe did was carpet bombing. Okay, the Luftwaffe did that to Great Britain, right, during the Battle of Britain in 1940. Now it's 1944, and we're returning the favor. Okay, the British are now bombing the Nazi territory. The Americans are helping bomb the Nazi territory. And it should be pointed out, we don't really care about the civilian casualties that are caused by our bombing. Okay, certainly the Nazis don't care. Okay, they didn't care if they killed British women and children. They could care less. And so we were returning the favor and doing the same thing to German cities. Okay. All right. Preparation. The Allies gathered in southern England and Scotland. The Germans built up that Atlantic Wall. That pillbox is what I showed you in concrete, and you'll definitely see that in the movies that I'm going to show you. The Nazis also flooded the lowlands of the Netherlands, okay, as a part of this Atlantic Wall, because even today there's a bunch of dams and dikes and levees that protect the Netherlands. They're supposed to be underwater, but they're not because of that system. Well, the Nazis broke that system on purpose so that the whole thing flooded because that was less area that they had to deal with. Okay, this Atlantic Wall extended all the way up into Norway. So you remember Europe map? Okay, all the way up into Norway, down to Spain. Okay, to try to make this as difficult as possible for us to get in there. So the date is June the 6th of 1944. D-Day does not stand for anything except it's code for an amphibious invasion. Amphibious means you're going from water to land. So we had hundreds of amphibious invasions during World War II, especially, well, Operation Torch in North Africa was an amphibious invasion. When we get to the Pacific battles next week, you'll see all kinds of amphibious invasions, right? Okay, so the shortest point between the two was the Port de Calais, and that's where the Nazis really thought we were going, okay? We invade Normandy, which is like a state or a province of France. So when you hear, the invasion of Normandy, but Normandy is a part of France. It would be like the invasion of California, like California being a part of the United States. Okay, and again, France is an allied nation. They're one of the five. It's the United States, England, France, Russia, China. Okay, and so we have to invade an allied nation because the Nazis kicked them out in 1940. Okay, all right. So here it is again, right? You can see the Port de Calais up there at the top by the Strait of Dover. That's the shortest point, but we don't go there because that's where they expect us to go. Okay, so here's a picture of the guys, and I just show this picture. I mean, look at how young these guys are. You guys look at them, and oh, they're old. Well, they're not old. They're literally like 2 or 3 years older than you. Okay, and they're going to be flying, jumping out of an airplane over the Nazi stronghold, over the Atlantic Wall, and coming back the other way from behind. They're jumping out in the middle of the dark, by the way, okay, in the middle of the night. Here's a picture of it, right? Of course, this isn't in the middle of the night, but look at all those troops, okay, that are jumping in there. And think of it this way. If there are Nazis on the ground where they're going, well, what do you think the Nazis are going to do? They're going to shoot them, okay, because that's what their job is. All right, so on D-Day, there were 4,600 invasion craft. There were over 1,000 Royal Air Force planes and Allied planes that bounded Normandy. There were 23,000 of these guys, okay, jumping out of the planes, and 150,000 troops came ashore. Okay, logistically, this is unbelievable. I mean, just having a barbecue at your house means a lot of work to do. Okay, this is feeding, equipping 150,000 men to cross the English Channel to go into France. Here's the numbers of it. And just look at the warships alone. Okay, 120 of them, right? 3,500 troop carriers, right? Merchant vessels, cargo carriers, right? That's just the planes. The boats. So you see the gliders up there, the 670 gliders. Those are the ones that were going to drop off, 20 soldiers at a time, but they hit that Rommel's asparagus. Okay, and it didn't work. There was larger air transport that were a part of this. Okay, there were fighter jets. Like this was our version of the Blitzkrieg, right, on the Nazis. There's more numbers for you. Okay, the number of deaths for the Allies was 4,413. Okay, 2,500 of them were Americans. Okay, during this D-Day invasion. I mean, that's amazing. That's just incredible. That's in a day. Okay, that happens. All right, so D-Day on Omaha Beach, that's the code name for one of the five. I showed you that earlier. There were 2,000 Allied casualties there, but this is June 6th. So by June 20th, there were 500,000 Allied troops in France. It worked. We got ashore. It wasn't easy. We got ashore, okay, but now we got 500,000 troops within 2 weeks. That's incredible, and that's exactly what we wanted. So this is a little more of the personal stories from the Nazis. Okay, but again, we'll take a look at that while you're in class. This is the next part of this, and you'll also see this in class, but the basics of this are that so June of 44 was D-Day. We're thinking it's pretty much over, but the Nazis in August had different ideas, okay? We liberate Paris. We get the Nazis out of there in August and September. Okay, we go into Germany. In December, the Nazis had different ideas. They launch a counterattack. Okay, that counterattack creates a bulge in our lines. Okay, so we have a bulge in our lines, that's why it's called the Battle of the Bulge. Okay, so all of that is all in 1944. Of course, we push them back at the Battle of the Bulge, and we go on to Berlin by May of 1945. So D-Day is in June of 44. In less than a year, Allied troops will be, American and British troops will be in Berlin, and Russian troops will also be in Berlin. It's over. Okay, it's over whenever we get to Berlin at that point. Okay, so the Battle of the Bulge was the largest battle ever fought by U.S. troops. 600,000 of our troops with 800,000 casualties. I always say about movies, but there's a HBO series called Band of Brothers, and it goes through the Battle of the Bulge, man. Those guys were in it. It is amazing. The story is incredible. Okay, it's just incredible what those guys went through, and they made it. They were some tough dudes fighting for our freedom. Okay, that brings us to the end of this. Again, that you should have had all this recorded in here. Okay, and that is the end of the note packet, right, of the war in Europe and North Africa. We still have to do the Pacific.